to this week's episode of the Dadcast. This week we are, if you haven't guessed from the shirt, you haven't guessed from what's in the background, we're talking Star Wars, and we're talking mostly Star Wars Outlaws, the new game that came out. There's a lot of opinions on it out there. I will say I don't have a major opinion on it. I do not have it. I'm obviously not a big enough channel to get a review code, so therefore I have to buy games to do reviews. And this is one of those games where I think pretty much people's minds are already made up whether they want it or they don't want it. So me doing a review would be derivative because anybody who watches it is already going to have their mind made up. So I was like, should I buy a $70 game or a $100 game, get it 3 days early? Or should I just let everyone else do it, and then some of the other games that I'm planning on buying I'll do reviews for, and Game Pass games that maybe I wasn't planning on buying I'll do a review for. So that's where we fall on that. But before we delve into all the Star Wars stuff, I just want to touch on some news stuff over the weekend that kind of dropped. First and foremost, it does seem that we are getting a PS5 Pro. Rumors have it will be announced either in September or October and will be a holiday release for this year. Also, it is going to be probably around $600 to $700 for the price tag, and those guesses are $600 for all digital, $700 for a disc-based version, and that's steep. Like, especially in this economy, just with inflation and just your average groceries and average things just costing way more than they used to. A $700 system, that's a bit much. That's one of those things where I'm not going to get a PS5 Pro. I'm perfectly happy with my PS5. I don't think anything the PS5 Pro will do will be worth me investing another $700 for it. So that's kind of where I stand on that. I mean, we're at this point with console games where you're doing these micro improvements to graphics, ray tracing, frame rate, performance, things like that. So for me personally, I've got the base system. I don't need to upgrade it. That's just where I stand. But if I were going to spend another $700 on a gaming system, gaming console kind of thing, I would probably put that money towards a gaming PC. I think if you're going to spend almost $1,000, you want to start building the gaming PC, and you could probably build a decent gaming PC for $700 and then down the road upgrade components where you're just spending like another $150 on a graphic card, things like that. So yeah, spending $700 on a console, especially when it's just a minor upgrade to a console, it's not like it's a PS6 or anything like that, or an Xbox Series X2, something like that, where it's all brand new hardware. This is just kind of a small little upgrade to the hardware. That's you can do a lot more with that $700. You can buy a bunch of games, and especially with not a lot of PS5 games being announced from Sony, so it's kind of like, yeah, you buy the system and you're going to play games you've already played, and they're going to have, maybe they'll have minor benefits, because it's going to be one of those things like, are they going to be compatible with the Pro as far as upgrading the ray tracing or the frame rate? As like, are the makers going to have to go back in and unlock those things? Kind of like what the Xbox generation did going into the Xbox One generation going into the Series X, where to do the the graphics updates and the frame rates and things like that, the game makers had to go in and unlock that and uptake it and do an update. So that'd be one of those things. Like, Sony will probably do those updates for games like God of War and Spider-Man, The Last of Us remake or remaster, whatever they're calling it. But yeah, other games, like, is Microsoft going to do that for Call of Duty for the PS5? Who knows? So that's a lot of money to spend on a system that's just a minor upgrade. I mean, me personally, I ain't going to do it. If I didn't have a PlayStation 5, it'd be something I would think about going into buying a PS5, unless there's going to be a big price cut for the regular PS5. 'Cause they're going to price cut the regular PS5 again. I'm like, I'll save my money and get games with that extra $200, kind of thing like that. So there is that to chew on. As always, let me know what you are thinking in the comments about that. But like I said, that's just my opinion. I think that price tag is going to be way too steep, especially, like I said, especially when we're only going to get minor upgrades, like a little bit of ray tracing, frame rates. And I know frame rate to a lot of people are important, but in all honesty, when I'm playing performance mode on Spider-Man and I'm getting 60 frame rates per second, I don't notice a downgrade in my graphics because I'm swinging way too fast. Like, everything's going by way too fast for me to really notice any downgrade in graphics. So, again, it's one of those things. It's just personally up to you. And so, this next piece of news, the last piece, before we... Actually, no, I'm sorry, not the last piece. We've got a couple other things. I'm sorry. This one hits me hard. Like, it hits me right in the chest, in the gut, and it makes me so sad. So, Dino Crisis series creator Shinji Mikami, he was interviewed recently, and he said he doesn't think we're going to get a Dino Crisis remaster, remake, anytime soon. He feels that Monster Hunter feels that niche. And that hurts my soul because anybody who's been watching this channel, anytime I'm talking about games that need a remake and things like that, I'm pounding on that Dino Crisis door. I'm like, give me a Dino Crisis remake, and I feel it's there. It's like the engine's built. Just use that RE engine, and God, I want a Dino Crisis. And you've got the Dino models from Exo Primal, which I played. So I'm one of those people who's like, Capcom gave me a dinosaur game, I'm going to play it, because if enough of us play it, we're going to get Dino Crisis. In fact, I was kind of hoping that this like worked into the Dino Crisis timeline. Like, that was my really big hope. Unfortunately, that was not the case. But, you know, I can still hold out hope that we'll get a Dino Crisis remake someday, and just fingers crossed we're going to get it. At least it was talked about. And in fact, like, Capcom ran a poll on Capcom America's website, and I did vote in this. What game series would you like to see come back? And Dino Crisis overwhelmingly won that poll. So hopefully, you know, maybe we get it. And if we get it, can you please play it? Because then Capcom will listen to us more, and maybe we'll get Dino Crisis 2 remade. We don't need 3, but maybe 2 will lead into a rebirth of the series, and we'll get a new Dino Crisis game coming out. Like, that's not a remake. That's a brand new, stands alone, and we can just erase our memories of that silly sci-fi spaceship Dino Crisis game. That's my hope. Or maybe we just get a new Dino Crisis game that runs on the Resident Evil engine. I'll take that too. I mean, the Jurassic Park movies came back with a vengeance, and they still made money even though the last 2 sucked, and they're still making another one. So give us Dino Crisis, please. And then, so from one sad news to even sadder news, being reported, Wario64 and IGN.com reporting that Rocksteady Studios is laying off several staff members as a result of the disastrous launch of Suicide Squad. And that's sad to hear, because just come from all the machinations and all the reporting about Suicide Squad, that's not the game Rocksteady wanted to make. That was kind of a Warner Brothers thing. Well, not necessarily Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, but the games as a service type game, because of course that's not Rocksteady's bag. Rocksteady's bag was doing the Batman Arkham series, satisfying one-player story, and which, you know, if it wasn't a games as a service, if it was a 4-player multiplayer like style, like Arkham, where you can play up to 4 players in there, I think that would have worked. I think making it as a games as a service and that shoehorn that games as a service crap in there, it just hit people the wrong way and burned some bridges with fans. And from what we understand, that was a Warner Brothers decision, not a Rocksteady decision. So that kind of sucks, because, you know, people are losing their jobs over something the developer didn't want to do, but the publisher was like, no, you're going to do this, we own you, kind of thing. And that's always sad when that happens. Like, we've seen it countless times with EA and some of their smaller studios, Activision and some of their smaller studios. And I'm not talking about just like closing the smaller studios, but massive layoffs because the game did not perform the way the publisher hoped it would, even though it wasn't the bread and butter of the developer. So that's kind of sad news. Hopefully those people being laid off find new work quickly. They land on their feet. I always hate reporting on layoffs in games, and it does suck because I don't know what Warner Brothers game studio is ranking in, but, you know, you see Microsoft, billion-dollar company, cutting studios, laying people off. Sony reporting massive profits, laying people off. EA always reporting massive profits, laying people off. That always sucks. It's kind of something like I've always kind of like delved into as a stock investor, but also when you see companies become going public and being traded public, because generally speaking, like a lot of these companies, game makers, just these niche hobby type things. They start out as a passion project for somebody. They make a company. The company gets big. They go public to get more capital. But always the problem when you go public is you have to appease investors. So you have to make that money for investors for their stocks to go up. Because if you report, you can make a profit, but if you hit below expectations, people sell. So that's always kind of a problem when it comes to stocks. And being a publicly traded company, you're always at the behest of making profits for the investors. And even if you do make profits, if the profits weren't what were projected, if they become lower than projected, then people lose their jobs. When it's generally speaking, the people who lose their jobs, they're not the ones to blame for the profits not being as high. It's generally speaking the people at the top who are making the most money, who are making the decisions, who make the bad decisions because they're chasing money instead of innovating, kind of thing. So we saw it happen with Bungie. We now have seen it with Rocksteady Studios. It's definitely sad that people lose their jobs because of profits not being what they thought they would be, because of decisions made by people at the top, and those people might want to take a pay cut, like Iwata did. My book's back there. Ask Iwata. Like he did when the Wii U flopped. He took a pay cut along with a lot of other higher ups. I believe Shigeru Miyamoto was one of those people too. They took pay cuts so they wouldn't have to fire anybody, and that's the kind of leader you want to have running your company. Not somebody who's going to fire a bunch of people, close studios because profits weren't hit because of dumbass decisions they made. So that sucks. And I'm sorry for those people. Like I said, I hope they land on their feet and find better jobs. Because you know what they say, when God closes a door, he always opens up a window. Hopefully that window leads to bigger and better things for these folks getting laid off. One last piece of news before we hit the meat of the podcast. The Tony Hawk Pro Skater Twitter account, and when I say Tony Hawk Pro Skater, I'm talking about the video game, not the actual skater, Tony Hawk, updated their banner. I'm going to show it on camera. Celebrating the 25th anniversary of the game releasing. We already got a remake of 1 and 2, so maybe that's things to come. Again, another series that I want to see more remakes from. I'd like to see 3 and 4 get a remake. Those were great games. If you watch my top 30 countdown, they came in at number 10, 1 through 4 plus the remakes, just because they're fun games. And if we got a remake of 3 and 4, I'd be as happy as a pig in crap, kind of thing. If you're not from the South, you don't know that colloquial, but yeah. So I mean, just the fact that they put the banner out there means the Twitter account's active, and also maybe something's on the horizon. Maybe we're going to get 3 and 4 remade. Activision is now owned by Microsoft. They're going to want to put out as many games under that banner, those banners as they can, because they paid for that license buying Activision, and having a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game come out, especially because 1 and 2 did great. I know Vicarious Visions is shut down, but maybe you work with the two brothers who started Vicarious Vision. I know they have their own studio now. They started a new studio. Maybe you work with them on making the remake, just contract it out and it comes out by Activision. I don't know, but more Tony Hawk Pro Skater done in the style of the remake of what Vicarious Visions did for Activision is definitely not a bad thing. And I'm really hoping that this is kind of more news I can report. I can tweet out saying, hey, we're getting another Tony Hawk game, because those are always fun. But yeah, so had a little bit of downer news in the middle. We got some hope going now. And speaking of hope, a new hope, Star Wars Outlaws. Let me pull my phone back up because I have lots of notes on this, and I got to get to my notes and then redo it. So, kind of a snafu with the release, the early access. I guess they were bug fixing on the systems when it was going to full launch, and apparently a lot of PlayStation 5 players are going to have to restart their save. Because apparently you will not be able to progress any further in the story. I don't know, like they didn't specify if this was happening to everyone's save file or just it happened to a few unfortunate folks. I know one person, it was being reported not only on SpawnWave and Inside Games, but somebody had like 30-40 hours invested in their which is a lot for 3 days, mind you, in their pre-release save file, and they're gonna have to start from scratch. I'd give up on the game at that point. Like I remember once it pissed me off. I want to say it was WWE 2K17. I was doing the WWE Universe thing where you set up your own shows and billing. You know, you could wrestle in them. And I had hours and hours invested in that. And then there was an update, and the update erased my save file. And I was like, I'm done. I actually did not touch WWE 2K game until 22. I took a 5-year break from that series because of that. I was just so pissed off that I was going to have to restart everything, and I had invested so many hours in it. And that's happened with other games too. It's like save file gets corrupted. You're 15, 20, 30 hours in, and you're like, I don't want to put all that work in. Especially if it's a game that you like, but there's some levels where you're just like slogging through. You're just like, God, I hate doing this because it's a fetch quest or something that you just hate doing. And you have to do it all over again, and you're just like, nah, I don't ever want to do that level again. I'm done with this game. I'm wiping my hands clean. We out. And so I feel for those PlayStation 5 players that happened to, and it sucks when game files do that. But yeah, so that was the first hiccup, and now like the reviews are in pretty middle of the road. I think Metacritic, it's somewhere in the 70s. Right now, some people like it, some people hate it. Like I said, I was watching Inside Games when they were talking about it. They were one of the few people who liked it, and I'm sure they're going to catch a lot of shit for it. Not from me, mind you. Everyone has their own opinion. I'm sure some people are like, oh, well, you guys went to that Ubisoft event at Disney, so you're just shilling for them, which they've addressed that. They said, no, they get invited to events before, even when they were with Funhouse, and when they were with Machinima, you know, it didn't really affect their reviews. And even Bruce Green, he said he's a big Star Wars guy. It's like pretty much anything Star Wars, he's probably going to find enjoyment in. And I mean, there's no fault in that. Like, and I'll be honest, early on, just because of the way Disney Star Wars is, I got caught up in the Star Wars Outlaws game. Like, I'm not going to play it, blah, 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 blah. Just because, you know, just everything Disney Star Wars has done, in my opinion, for the most part, with few exceptions, has been kind of bad. So I got caught up in that a little bit. But as more stuff has come out about Outlaws and more gameplay footage I've seen, I'm actually very interested in trying the game out. I'm not going to pay $70 for it, especially due to those stealth missions, everything I've heard about stealth missions. And I hate it when games that aren't stealth games, that aren't like a Siphon Filter, aren't like a Metal Gear, where stealth is key for your game, try to do stealth mechanics, because generally they don't give you all the tools you need to be successful in, or it's too harsh. And from what I can tell, it's pretty harsh in this, the stealth mechanics. So that's one thing that would probably frustrate me and might make me quit playing. So I'm gonna hold off until it hits like a Black Friday sale, something like that. But yeah, just from what I've seen and what I've heard, even some of the bad things that I've heard, I'm still kind of interested in this game because it takes place in that era of Star Wars that I like, the trilogy, the original trilogy era. And so just like Bruce talking about it, seeing some of his gameplay footage has got me interested. Even Lawrence, who's not a Star Wars guy, he's enjoyed his time playing with it. And again, I'm sure there will be people saying they're shilling, things like that. And they could be, they might not be. I really don't know. But like I said, from what I've seen from the gameplay, like actual gameplay footage of people, not memes people are throwing out there, not screen grabs people are throwing out there. From what I've seen from actual gameplay, like extensive gameplay, it looks fun. It looks like something I might enjoy, kind of like a Shadows of the Empire kind of deal. So I'm going to give it a chance one day, but that's going to be when it gets a price break, probably kind of thing. I know I could sign up for Ubisoft's Plus thing, but even with like a free 30 days, I don't want to sign up for, or I don't even know if they do free 30 days. I might have to pay the $18. I still don't want to do that because I got to remember to cancel it and all that stuff. So I'm just going to wait till the game's at a price point that I feel like I want to play for it and try it out. But I will give Ubisoft credit for what they're doing here. They're going to an era of Star Wars that in modern video games I feel is underrepresented. That's the original trilogy kind of thing. Though I will say I really wish game makers would give us a game where we play as Luke, Han, and Leia. Like Star Wars Outlaws could have easily been like that. Could have been, I think, what would have really helped if it was a New Hope Han Solo game. Like, I would love a you get to fly around the Falcon, you and Chewie doing stuff, maybe even you team up with Lando to do stuff, and this is all before he got involved with the rebellion, so he's a real scoundrel, and because it's a video game and not a Disney movie, you can really explore that and do some underhanded things, kind of thing like that, and that would be a lot of fun to me. Or just playing through the trilogy as Luke. I know I got Rogue Squadron back there playing the demo mode behind me, flying around in X-Wing as Luke, blowing up the Death Star. And I don't know if we've gotten a 3D like Luke Skywalker game where you're actually playing as Luke, fighting Darth Vader, Jabba's barge. I know in some of the GameCube Rogue Squadron games you could get out of your ship with Luke, but I don't know how extensive that is because I only played the first one. I didn't play. I think there were 2 more on the GameCube, and I didn't play those. So I don't really know the extent of the lightsaber fight with Luke, but I don't really think you actually did fight Darth Vader or anything like that. So a Star Wars trilogy video game where you can play as all 3, kind of like a throwback to the Super Nintendo games that we got. That would be a lot of fun, I think. And I would love for one of these game publishers to do that. And I know Factor 5's gone, and they probably did the best Star Wars games as far as ship and stuff like that. But if we could get something like that, that'd be a blast, I think. Where you actually get to play as everyone's 3 favorite characters and shoot even I don't know if you play as him as a person, but like in Super Return of the Jedi, you are piloting the Millennium Falcon as Lando, and you help blow up the Death Star. Or maybe you can pick what fighter you can be. You can be Lando in the Millennium Falcon, or you be Wedge and Tilly's in an X-Wing, and you kind of do that kind of thing. That would be a lot of fun. I just don't think the original trilogy gets served in modern video games. Because we had Jedi Survivor, and that took place after Revenge of the Sith, but before. And what are the Star Wars? Oh, we've gotten Battlefield, but those are PvE, PvP games. It's not really the same thing. There's no real story mode. You're just fighting. So I don't really count that. Plus, that's all eras of Star Wars. I guess the Lego games, but I'm talking about a real 3D in third person, realistic models kind of thing. We really haven't gotten anything like that in a long time from Star Wars. I want to say not since the GameCube games, because even then we still got Jedi Outcast, which is post trilogy adjacent kind of thing like that. Luke shows up, and Cal Kestis is Jedi Survivor. Luke. Oh, what is his name? I can't think of the guy's name right now. Sorry, but yeah, that kind of thing. So it'd be really cool to get some Star Wars stuff in that era, because I think that would really help. Because I've come to the conclusion with my Star Wars fandom that when I was a kid into a teenager, I loved everything Star Wars. I would consume anything Star Wars, be it have anything to do with Luke, Leia, Han, or just some of the other stories and things like that. I loved it. Since Disney has taken over, though, I don't really care about any of their original stuff. Rogue One was okay. I think that gets put on a pedestal just because compared to the other schlock Disney has put out, it makes it look even better. But The Force Awakens was a lot of fun. That was a great kind of throwback to the original trilogy, kind of thing like that. But the subsequent movies just did not hit those notes. They were kind of all over the place. The first season of The Mandalorian was the first piece of non-Skywalker saga Star Wars stuff that I wanted to even consume since the 90s. And then it was a fun Western motif, and then it just kind of started being advertisements for the Book of Boba Fett, advertisements for Ahsoka, and just other shows that Dave Filoni wanted to do outside of The Mandalorian. So I kind of fell off there. And then, like I said, everything else Disney has kind of done has just been kind of meh. I hear Andor's good, but again, because I was not super attached to any of those characters in Rogue One, I haven't checked it out yet. Maybe I will over this long Labor Day weekend. But yeah, so going back to Outlaws, I think because of the Acolyte, it's coming out around while we saw the Acolyte news, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, what is it, the Force for her, or the force is female or whatever Kathleen Kennedy said. And again, I've talked about that on previous podcasts where I don't think it's trying to be male exclusionary. I think it's more trying to be, hey, we got a bunch of these male fans over here. They make up the most of our demographic. Let's try to get more female fans here. And maybe with the Acolyte, they're like, let's try to get some LGBTQ plus. And I'm going to apologize if I left out letters on that one. Like, no joke. It changes so much. I think I got them all though. But yeah, so they wanted to get, those groups, those genders, those sexualities, and things like that becoming fans. And they just, because they were checking boxes and not making good stories, it falls flat with the fandom, kind of thing like that. So I think Outlaws unfortunately got lumped into that because it's a female lead in it, and a lot of people are saying they uglied up the actress who did the facial capturing for the character, kind of thing. And there are some kind of janky graphics in some of the scenes, but people keep using like this one picture. But I've seen other pictures where it does not look. She doesn't look that bad as far as the 3D rendering for the character. And honestly, I don't think they were necessarily trying to make her look ugly. What I think they were trying to do is make her look more like somebody from the 70s, considering that's when the Star Wars movies were made, and that's the era this takes place in. So you want the people to have the hairstyles that actors and actresses would have had then, and just kind of like the look that actresses and actors would have then. So I think they weren't trying to make her uglier, which a lot of Western developers have been accused of over like the last year, to varying degrees of probably to reaches here. So I think that's what kind of happened here. They were trying to make her look like she might have looked if she was an actress in the 70s. And, sometimes you have high goals and you don't actually hit them the way you thought you would, and that just could be why she does not look as attractive as her real-life counterpart. But also, you're trying to make a 3D model of a real person. Sometimes that doesn't always translate. Take a look at any modern wrestling game, things like that. Like, you have some of your wrestlers spot on, look identical, and some of them you're like, it's kind of wonky. So, I mean, various degrees of success sometimes. And, sometimes some people's faces just don't capture 3D modeling well. Like, anybody in the action figure community knows, man, it's hard to get a good-looking Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill figure. Like, there are some even with like all this new technology, there are some wonky ass Mark Hamill figures out there that you're like, oh, that doesn't look like Mark at all. But then every once in a while you get one that's gold, and that becomes the definitive one. Same with, if you're a wrestling fan, Kevin Nash. For whatever reason, it's very hit or miss with his likeness. I have a couple figures that spot on look like Big Sexy, and then I have others that are just like that looks like his stunt double. That doesn't look like Kevin Nash at all. So it's just kind of one of those things with 3D rendering and 3D mapping of faces. Some people's faces, I guess, translate really well to video games and action figures, and some people's don't. And maybe this particular actress, her face is just one of those faces that just does not, no matter how precise you try to be, it just does not translate well, kind of thing like that. So I think there's a lot of much ado about nothing for this game. I think a lot of people are still trying to get on that woke Disney train for this game, which, from everything I've seen from actual gamers who have played the game, there's none of that. We just happen to have a female protagonist. And I mean, even if you go back to like original 3D adventure games, Lara Croft was one of the first 3D adventure, with Tomb Raider games, one of the first 3D adventure 3D adventure games. It was a female protagonist, and none of us were screaming woke or anything like that then. I mean, that wasn't a part of the vocabulary then, but nobody was real like, oh, I'm not playing this game because it's a girl, kind of thing. And so that's kind of how the genre started. I mean, even if you go back to 8-bit days with Metroid and Samus, female, again, it's a sci-fi adventure game. So that's kind of how it's been. It's kind of played off of Ripley from Aliens, kind of thing. Like, I think that was kind of the female-led adventure series kind of thing. And it kind of, the males took it back with Nathan Drake and Uncharted and things like that. But honestly, it's like the sex of the character doesn't matter to me at all with the story. And like I said, from all the gameplay I've watched, because I haven't played the game yet, there doesn't seem to be any quote-unquote wokeness in the game. It just happens to be a female lead. So I kind of can't wait for that narrative to die. And I think it will die. I think with kind of like the latest slate of Marvel stuff, because I think Marvel's going back to their core audience and trying to satisfy them first and foremost. So I think if like Star Wars does the same, and it's kind of funny to say this, you get equal representation of males. Like you get your Han Solo types, and you get your stronger male lead types back in there. I think we'll get less cry of this when we get a strong female type in there, which I hope, because I really hate for some of my favorite fandoms to be boiled down to woke or not woke kind of thing like that, when maybe that's not even what the creatives are going for. So yeah, with Star Wars Outlaws. Let's see, what else do I have in my notes? Yeah, I mean, just with that, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like let's give the game a chance. Like if it's something, like I said, something to maybe pick up cheap, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna wait for like a holiday sale. Maybe go on like QVC.com and do the 5 easy payments, and make it even more palatable to the wallet. Because I'll just get like 5 payments of like $8 or something like that when I wait for a sale or something of that matter. But yeah, just swinging back to the Inside Game guys. I mean, with them talking about Star Wars Outlaws and how much they like it, I do remember they were one of the few people who championed Cyberpunk 2077 when it came out. And yeah, it was glitchy for a lot of people. Not glitchy for me. I think I encountered one glitch where I had to restart and go back to a save point. And luckily, because I saved so much in that game, I didn't have to go back that far. So they were right about that, because after a few patches, because Project Red stayed with it, they made a really good game and a great DLC, which I still need to download and play. One of these days I'll get around to it. I got so many games on my backlog. But they were right about that, and they kind of stuck with, when they were with Funhouse, they stuck with No Man's Sky. Again, a game people shat on when it came out, and the developers stuck with that. So maybe Ubisoft will make some tweaks, improve some of the gameplay, and once again, Lawrence and Bruce will be right about a game that everyone kind of wanted to shit on when it first came out. Like I said, I'm still waiting for a price drop for that game, but I do want to play it. It does look fun to me. It does look like a fun Star Wars original trilogy adventure game, so I'm excited about that. Not excited for some of the stealth stuff, because even they said they were not a fan of the stealth stuff, but other in-game things they enjoyed. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to doing a Star Wars adventure like that, and I'll pick it up. I'll probably stream it too when I do, just so you can get my first opinions on it, so you can say like, oh, hey, Josh's prediction from by far that's something he would enjoy was right, or maybe I'm wrong. I'm like, this game sucks, and I quit playing, and then go take it to GameStop and get pennies on the dollar for what I paid. But yeah, so if you've played Star Wars Outlaws, let me know what you think about it in the comments. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think Ubisoft will stick with it and improve some of the aspects people don't like about it, like the stealth sections? Maybe they'll fix them and make them less brutal. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about, maybe we'll never get a Dino Crisis remake, which hurts my soul. The Rocksteady layoffs. Can Rocksteady rebound? Can we get a new game from Rocksteady that makes up for the Suicide Squad? And then, what do you think about Tony Hawk Pro Skater? What do you think about them celebrating the 25th anniversary? Does that mean more games? Maybe we'll get some DLC skate parks for Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Maybe that's the DLC we get. We get the skate parks for 3 and 4, just to give us more stuff to do in that game. That would be awesome. Maybe some new music tracks too, which would be great. So, again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. I got videos going up daily. Either it's countdowns, it's the Dadcast, it's gameplay, it's other random stuff I want to put on there. Toy reviews, video game reviews, room tours, because I've changed this room around so much, because it seems like every time Bowie comes up here to play while I'm playing video games, he destroys something. So once I start picking that back up again, it's like, you know what, let me move this over here, let me move this here. So the room changes a lot, and I get some cool decorations. Oh, other shoulder. I'll turn it this way. My Indiana Jones Laserdisc, thumbs up over there on the screen. Behind me that I've displayed there. I've got the Crow and Batman and Gundam displayed in there, Laserdisc, to make the displays pop a little bit more. So, yeah, come back for some more video game, toy fun, and just overall nerdiness. that's what we do here. So yeah, as always, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.